Welcome to National Parks Traveler, where we explore the national parks and the issues that involve them.
There are seemingly endless guides to exploring the national parks. Moon, National Geographic, Lonely Planet, and various other corporate publishers. Indeed, it's rare these days that you find a writer who takes on the role of both guidebook author and publisher. This is Kurt Repenchek, your host at the National Parks Traveler. Most of these guidebooks take the same approach, a nice overview of the park in question, followed by a breakdown of places to stay, where to eat, things to do, nearby attractions. Mike Oswald is swimming against the current with his park guidebooks. First, he came out with Your Guide to the National Parks, a thick, hefty volume that has won awards from the Independent Book Publishers Association. Along with the usual park basics, he fills his chapters with history, maps that point out some of his favorite hikes and don't miss attractions, some details on plants and animals, a suggested vacation planner, and, of course, full-color photographs of some iconic settings. Today we're sitting down with Mike to discuss not only his decision to go independent against those giants in the guidebook publishing world, but also his latest park-related projects. We'll be back in a minute with Mike.
Whether it be strategy, business planning, change management, board development, executive search, or diversity planning, Potrero Group is here to help. They mix a depth of experience in the parks and land space with a breadth of best practices from other industries. For more information or to schedule a preliminary conversation, go to potrerogroup.com. Potrero group.com. The Yosemite Conservancy helps visitors connect with Yosemite through adventures, volunteering, and the arts. It's the only nonprofit dedicated to supporting Yosemite National Park and funds grants to improve trails, restore habitat, protect wildlife, and inspire the next generation of nature lovers. Learn more at yosemite.org. Washington State is graced with 3 spectacular national parks, each different and special in their own unique ways. As the official nonprofit partner and the only philanthropic organization dedicated exclusively to supporting these parks through charitable contributions, Washington's National Park Fund has a mission to raise private support to deepen everyone's love for, understanding of, and experiences in Mount Rainier, North Cascades, and Olympic National Parks. Share your passion for these parks at WNPF.org.
Welcome to Traveler, Michael. Glad you could join us today.
Thanks for having me, Kurt. Pleasure to be here.
You know, we've corresponded for years, and I've read your books and I've studied your books and I've enjoyed your books for years, and it's great to finally catch up and see each other face to face for this podcast that nobody can see but they can listen to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been doing the same. I've read a bunch of articles and been very grateful for you helping me out. And I probably should be donating a little more because you do give me a little bump on the book sales, and hope we do that in the future.
Well, I'd be curious to see, if there actually is a bump and how you can measure that. But I know some people are interested in that, and return on investment's always a biggie. But I can never accurately tell people that, oh yeah, this is how many people. Well, I can tell people how many people saw their articles or their advertisements. But return of investment's always a tricky thing because people can look at advertisements, they can click on advertisements, but if they don't make a purchase at the other end, it doesn't really matter.
Hey, it's a good time, and this wasn't planned, but I mentioned doing that National Park Traveler with 25% off on the website. So people go to stoneroadpress.com, use NPT25, buy some books. I'm giving the profits to the traveler. So support the traveler, get some good books, check it out, and keep everything running. Keep all that park information coming your way.
Yeah. Well, you threw that out there, but we should probably mention the books first. As I mentioned, we go back a few years, and I think we ran across each other with your first publication, Your Guide to the National Parks. And at the time, I forget how many parks there were at the time, but you went out there as an independent, which is unheard of in these days. I mean, I've been in journalism for going on 50 years, I hate to say. It scares me when I mention that number, but you've been out there as an independent publishing these incredible guides, 4-color guides that are thick and, 5-pound guide to the national parks. Tell us how you got into this.
Well, honestly, I didn't know any better. That is the God's honest truth, is that by degree, I'm an engineer and problem solver at heart. I'm just like, well, this can't be like too difficult or to figure out everything
Ooh,
that's going on here. And yeah, just one thing led to another. And it started with started my way out east, worked my way out west, visited the parks in a fairly systematic way, and sat down at a computer for almost 2 years and came out with a big book. And the goal was I guess I remember the whole impetus for how this started. It was using the National Geographic book, the comprehensive guidebook to the parks, and it's mainly it's good, but it's for the roadbound tourist. And then I flipped it over and I saw on the back of it they're kind of boasting our number one selling guidebook, and I'm like, well, maybe I'd have something, because I was sitting there trying to figure out what to do with my life, kind of at a crossroads, you could say, and I was using James Kaiser's book for Acadia at the time. So I was in Acadia and I'm like, this guy's got a good book. If you apply it to all the parks, you could really have something, give people a little better information for the parks. And that was essentially the goal. Went to the parks, made a book, then printed it, distributed it, and here we are, what seems like another lifetime later.
but I'm curious. I mean, what did you see in those books that was missing that gave you an idea to launch your own books? I mean, obviously, it's a crowded market out there. You can go into bookstores back when bookstores were all over the country, and you go to the travel section, and so many travel guides on specific national parks or on the entire national park system. What did you see that you wanted to differentiate to make your books better?
Well, it's kind of like the adventure side of things. So the saying about the books, the Nat Geo guide being more for the roadbound tourist. So you got to know, like, today everybody's talking about crowds, right? And to escape the crowds, you don't have to do a whole lot. You just have to hike maybe 2 miles, 3 miles,
Sure.
and you're off there in beautiful wilderness. And most books don't really have that. Like, so I've got hiking tables, camping tables, lodging tables. Just essentially, it's more information. The National Park Service provides a lot of information from their visitor centers, from their website, and I compiled everything, and with what I did from park to park, put it together in a nice, clear, easy to understand, like intuitive layout. And so it's, yeah, essentially just more information. Like my first national park trip was to the Grand Canyon, and I feel like I was your typical visitor, where you just go to the rim, look in, hike down South Kaibab for a little bit, hike back up, like, and then friends and I went back on our way. And then the next time when I'm coming around on my own, taking my time and doing way more things, and like, man, these places are incredible. And there was kind of like I don't know if I want to say spite, but it was like, why was everyone when I was in college saying go to Europe, go to Europe, go to Europe? And like the Yosemite Glacier never once crossed my ears, and like all of them. Utah, you've spent time in like working for the AP in Wyoming, and you've been to a lot of parks, and it's like, why doesn't anyone talk about these places?
Yeah.
And so then when I was using that Nat Geo book and feeling it had its shortcomings in just providing information on our country,
Mm-hmm.
and now I actually feel like it feels more relevant than ever, because I see like we need like these fundamental sources of pride, and our land is something to really be proud of, and we need to get more, like, because I don't know if I want to say more people, but more people to experience it in a more intimate way, and more of the National Park Service units. Like it generally, if they have good experiences, it's nothing but good for the country in terms of like what humans will do here, like a net positive civil gain.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, before we got onto the recording, we were talking about parks and park issues. And, it was, I believe, in February of 22 when the Park Service released their visitation numbers for calendar year 2021. And it was roughly 300 million people visited the national park system, and 50%, roughly 150 million of those 300 million people went to just 25 parks, the name brand parks. There are, I don't know, 424, maybe 425 units of the park system out there. Why did you focus just on the quote unquote national parks?
It's really just to bucketize things. That's what everybody's, so that is what people are thinking about. As meant, the parks are kind of a meme, and it is to make it monetarily, like to make the whole idea of starting a business and making it possible for me to do this is to, cover the places that people are going to. And yeah, my editor and I, we talked about doing the national forest, doing things where people know less about. And now in hindsight, I probably wouldn't do that. But it is like yeah, you cover where the people are going, try to just yeah, I don't even know how how to answer that question really.
Well, I think you nailed it. I mean, it's all about making money, and I guess I'm a little bit too idealistic for that because I view the entire national park system, and each unit, I believe, has its own following. People who are, really love that place, whether it's a Yellowstone and everybody loves Yellowstone, or whether it's a tall grass prairie or an agate fossil beds. They each have their own following of people, and I feel that as a journalist, it's my role to recognize that and try to give that place, provide as much information about that place as possible, which is a ridiculous goal, especially with one full-time person at the Traveler.
Yeah, impossible goal, right? Like unless you had unlimited funding and time too, and wanted to dedicate your life nonstop to that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm working on cloning myself.
You can do it. If they did it with Dolly, they can do it with you.
There you go. There you go.
But yeah, I mean, I think we're talking about like issues with the park with chasing money, like right, like that's kind of the fundamental issue is the visitation is all about money. Guys like me and the guidebook people kind of funneling people to the same places. And
Right.
where I was just before talking about increasing the positive experiences of park goers, where you want to spread them. Nobody wants to spend 4 hours in line at the gates of Yosemite in the car. And like Arches is the same thing, where it's a relatively small park.
Sure.
And then you can go to other places outside the park, like Goblin Valley, and people are making fun of like, where are all the people? And it's like, yep, they're in line at Arches.
Yeah, yeah. No, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know what the solution is. I mean, I've tinkered with the idea of trying to produce a book either in paper or digitally through the Traveler about some of these what I call overlooked gems and tell the backstories of why these places are national parks, units in the national park system. That's another thing that kind of gets to me is whenever a unit that's not called a national park, like New River Gorge National River, becomes New River Gorge National Park and Preserve, all of a sudden we've got a new national park added to the system. And I have to scratch my head because it's always been part of the system and it's largely always followed, the same guidelines as a Yellowstone in terms of management. So anyway, I digress.
Yeah, just semantics and then the perception, right? It is just marketing.
Yeah, well, yeah, the Chamber of Commerce thing. We want to change our name so we can bring in more dollars. I mean, nothing is going to change to the park. In fact, it's probably detrimental to the park because you're going to have the hordes of people who want to count coup in the national park system. We've got to go to this new national park. So I've got your second edition, the complete guide to all 59 national parks. Are you working on a third edition with 63 or maybe 64 national parks?
Third edition is out there. It was out there last May, came out, and so we're up to 63 now.
You didn't send it to me.
I think I did, or I didn't. Maybe
I don't know. It's not on my bookshelf. Anyway, you traveled to each and every one of the national parks.
So no, I haven't. There are a couple in Alaska that are fly-in only, and American Samoa. And it does make me a little bit of a hack, but I'm okay with that. And just thinking about like, where is my money better served? It's like going to the parks that everybody goes to, because I do feel like I'm providing a pretty good service where you have parks that are busier, the Yosemites, the glaciers, the Yellowstones, the Arches, Rocky Mountain. You do need to know a little more. Like you don't want to go to Rocky Mountain and just immediately go to Bear Lake area and then see that. You want to go somewhere else, and or at least like busy areas morning and evening, and then other areas in the afternoon,
right,
when everybody's out and about. So that is a pretty good service. But yeah, so the fly-in only ones in Alaska are just I want to do it right the first time, and I actually tried to partner up with a bush pilot, And they're just like, no, if you're coming here, you're going to have to work, because like everybody's expected to work if you're going to be doing any sort of like quid pro quo. I was trying to do the old pitch of photography for going around to the parks and like really seeing those places, because
Yeah.
they're massive. They're almost all of them are the biggest, like in the list of the top biggest parks and of all the national parks. But so I ended up skipping those, and then American Samoa is just extremely remote, relatively difficult, and I just haven't felt like it's providing that much more to readers to go there. And I selfishly, like once I was actually making a little bit of money, I selfishly went and did my own personal travel, because after a while you kind of do need that, where it can't be all national parks all the time, which probably in hindsight was a mistake. But it's like, man, it's nice to not do something that is like everybody talking parks the whole time.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you're talking about, Mike. Years ago, last century, in a previous role, I wrote the best-selling Dummies Guide to the National Park System, national parks, and it's really hard work to go out and visit each and every national park, and come away with both the salient aspects, but as well as the overlooked aspects. What I love about what you're doing is you're doing it yourself. You launch this on yourself, and you just had this bug that you wanted to do this, and you put together this incredible 4-color huge guide to the national parks, and it's not printed in China. It's not edited in a cookie cutter fashion. It's what you thought was important as a park goer, and I think that resonates with whoever picks it up and takes a look at it.
Yeah, that's definitely that engineer in me. Every step of the way is just like, why can't I do this? Why can't I do this? And now I've actually even become more insular with the printing. I brought my printing to Wisconsin, where we've got the Paper Valley an hour away, and then I found great value to be able to be there with them, and it just makes more sense to have them relatively close. So the third largest printer is an hour and a half away, and they've been fantastic. They've been absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And it's nice being able to touch the papers that they're using and talk to the people, and yeah, like you said, I think it does mean something to people. Like immediately when I did it, I'm like, I cannot take a book on the national parks in the United States and print it in China. Even I did, out of curiosity, get a price to see what the difference is, and it's not negligible.
Sure.
But at the same time, and my web designer, when he saw that, he's like, you know what, you should put a huge with United States flag on the book, on the cover, and that should be like your number one marketing point. I'm like, the parks are the number one marketing point, and they do a good job of selling themselves.
Yeah. We're talking today with Mike Oswald, a one-person former engineer turned writer of National Park guidebook information. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
National Parks Traveler has launched the National Parks RVing Guide, the definitive guide for RVers seeking information on campgrounds in the National Park System. The guide is now available free through the Apple App Store and Google Play Store. If you're a traveler who wants to explore the National Park System, you'll want this app. The guide is packed with RVing specific details for campgrounds in more than 70 national parks across the country. Search by park, state, or region of the country, and you'll find information about campgrounds that can handle big rigs, those with showers and dump stations, ADA accessible sites, and more. You'll find stories about RVing in the parks, tips for new RVers, as well as feeds of the traveler's content. Our latest stories and recent podcasts are just a tap away. Download the National Parks RVing Guide and start planning your next trip today. Full of stunning photography and thought-provoking reads, Smoky's Life is a biannual magazine produced by Great Smoky Mountains Association. Members receive it free of charge each spring and fall, and it is available for purchase in retail stores throughout Great Smoky Mountains National Park and online at smokiesinformation.org. Acadia National Park is one of the 10 most popular national parks in the United States. It is also one of the smallest and most vulnerable. That's why Friends of Acadia exists. Friends of Acadia is an independent organization of passionate people inspiring those who love this magnificent park to make a real and lasting difference for Acadia. You can make a difference too at friendsofacadia.org. The Grand Teton National Park Foundation is a private, nonprofit organization that supports projects that protect and enhance Grand Teton National Park's cultural, historic, and natural resources. By funding initiatives that go beyond what the National Park Service could accomplish on its own, Foundation donors improve the visitor experience and provide benefits to the National Park System for decades to come. See their successes at gtnpf.org.
Okay, we're back with Mike Oswald, a prolific writer of national park information. I'm curious, Mike. I mean, obviously you visited a lot of national parks. Let's kick the tires a little bit. What are some of the flaws you saw as you traveled the national park system?
Man, people aren't going to like this, but I think actually more development in the parks, which and you might not like this, but it's
You want more
so the
development, or
parks-
you say there's too much?
have more trails, even more roads, and what is the National Park Service? 85 million acres, something like that, almost 100 million acres, and most of it is in Alaska.
Yeah.
But when you go to a park and I think it's 10,000 miles of trails in the 63 national parks, and so when I'm looking at them and seeing the crowds, and the limiting factor is always parking, right? Like crowdedness is not proportional to anything other than, except for in the parks where there's shuttles. But I think we could absolutely have more parking spaces, maybe even more campgrounds, even though like they're only full in summer and in the Southwest, spring and fall. But I really think like it's all to have more positive experience in the parks. And if you had more trails, more roads, more parking, I think it'd be a overall positive thing. And I know we were just talking before this about you conserving everything. and
I think we're gonna have to end this right here.
The sort of John Muir mentality of conserving everything. And I look back at that when you look at the like John Muir, Gifford Pinchot argument between conservation through use and conservation just period. I'm definitely a conservation through use type person where I'm like, you harvest those trees, plant new ones, and you can eliminate some of the fire situations.
Ooh.
But yeah, maybe I'm bringing controversy to the National Parks Traveler, trying to increase that traffic and decrease my book sales.
Controversy sells. There are some parks that perhaps could use more development, like Voyageurs National Park. They have one lodge inside the park, and I understand they're having trouble finding a concessionaire for that. There's no lodging in Yellowstone, in Rocky Mountain National Park. But there's so much growth around the parks. Why would you want to bring that type of hard infrastructure into a national park setting, a place like Rocky Mountain or Canyonlands?
Just for more access, give people more options to, I don't know. Yeah, I guess, I mean, that would really irritate a lot of people that love the backcountry and they love hiking 10, 20 miles and escaping all of that. But yeah, I don't know. Like my number one solution for the crowd thing is having year-round school, but that's like a totally different argument, and that would take a huge act of political willpower. And because I sit there and look, and like it's always summer, right? Like all the complaints, all of the articles, when you look at the media, it's always in summer, and then we're loving the parks to death. Yeah. And it's like, well, are we really? Like there's so much public land, like 1 out of every 5 acres is federal land, right? Like between BLM, U.S. Forest Service, and National Park Service. So it's not a shortage of land. It's just the flush of families in summer.
Well, and it's marketing. It's marketing. I mean, oddly enough, the National Park Service cannot advertise, even though it has a tourism department. It's always kind of been a head scratcher for me on that. And there are, you've got 63 national parks, and then you've got another 361 units in the national park system that people aren't fully aware of and what exists there. And yes, there are parks devoted to natural resources, forests and rivers and lakes and whatnot, and Red Rock. And then there are the cultural parks and, incredible history in the park system, and how to get people to spread out. And in a lot of those parks, you can go year round.
Yeah, more information. That's where where you're talking about doing all the national parks on your own, like all the National Park Service units,
Yeah.
and getting that out there. But you all at the same time, like you don't want to wall drugify like I don't know, like everybody picks on Gateway Arch, right? Like you don't want to do a multi-million dollar marketing campaign for Gateway Arch and everybody's like, what is this? Why is this a national
Yeah.
park? And get everybody up in arms like this isn't anything like the Rockies.
No, it's definitely an interesting thing. You know, as I mentioned, you have a number of books out there, and one of your recent projects, which I really love, because I like to drive around and visit places, and you're always looking for a map. And yes, you can get a map of each park as you drive into it, and then you're going to have 63 brochures flying around your vehicle. And you came out with the National Park Maps, an atlas of the United States national parks. And that was a great idea. What do you think about it? How did you come up with this idea? I mean, it's basically you've captured those park brochure maps and put them all in one place.
Yeah, this is just like you. It's something that I always wanted to exist. Where I can't count how many times where I was unfolding my national parks map. I'm like, man, it'd be pretty nice to have these all in one place and big enough so that you don't have to pull out a magnifying glass and that you don't have to like remove anything. And all the maps are available. And I was talking to my distributor, and it's like, why don't you make it? And I'm like, I could. Like, there's so many like just little naive things that I'm oblivious to where I'm thinking like a little bigger than that. And this is a project that didn't take a whole heck of a lot of work, but I wanted to put more into it that it's more than just maps. So giving people driving charts and some favorite lists and things so that they can get deeper into the parks. But essentially like the map, like you can't convey information better for traveling than a map, and just does a better job than words. And yeah, so it's finally like,
Wait. It does not do a better job than words. Sorry.
well, more it conveys more. It has more information than words can do. It's more efficiently. Don't you think?
Never tell a writer that there's more important things than words. No, I mean it's a great publication. It sits in the back pouch of my car right now. But it's got, not only does it have the map, but like you said, it's got information. Why visit Guadalupe Mountains National Park? Well, because you want to hike to the highest point in Texas, or you want to pass through Devil's Hall. What you need to know to visit this park or that park. I mean, it's got some practical information beyond just being a collection of maps.
Yep, it's very nice and easy. I realize there's different types of travelers. Like I've been calling the big book like national, like everything for the information. This one's kind of driving, where if you're just going to go in, out, take a couple days, maybe just not even a night, but just hop in, figure out the best places, and you can visualize everything that you're going to do with the map right there
Yeah.
before entering.
Yeah, no, it's a great resource, and I hope it's doing well for you, because it should be. You can clutter your car up with so many brochures. I was going through my car the other day, cleaning it out, and it's amazing how many different brochures I had from this one park or that one park, and it's like, let's put it all together into one collection. One of your most recent books, maybe it is your most recent. I've got two books that you sent me recently. The Day Hiker's Guide to the National Parks, 280 trails. Again, what prompted this idea? I mean, there are guidebooks to national park hiking trails.
Yeah, so I'm kind of thinking to the future with these new books where they're going to have a little longer shelf life and take less revisions when I come back to them. So trails don't change a whole lot. And again, while there are individual national park guides, there's nothing comprehensive like this where you're taking all 63 national parks. And obviously, like the fly-in Alaska ones where there aren't trails, there's just the map and then explaining what's going on there. But for the trail heavy ones, the Yellowstones, the Yosemites, the glaciers, the Rocky Mountains, then you've got like there's 198 individual trail maps for them, and then it has shaded relief, so you can see what you're getting into. I know when you on the big park maps, you can't really see the topography very well, and even on some of the ones when you're at the actual trail, like they'll give just a flat relief rather than the actual relief, so you know what you're getting into. So you have and then there's elevation gain, distance, and just again more information. I always feel the more you know, the better you're going to be. And that's going to help you have those better experiences in the parks too. And if you do, like, if you are traveling in summer and crowded trailhead, you'll have a plan B, a plan C, plan D, and they'll all be pretty good choices. Like, there a lot of those parks, like, you can't go wrong wherever you're hiking, but sometimes finding a spot is difficult.
Yeah, yeah. Got to ask you, have you hiked each and every one of these 280?
I have not, but almost all of them. And I was telling somebody about the thumbs up on my first book, where some of them were just little notes to myself to hike next time going around. So it's a little cue. And I like kind of being the only person who knows what's what. There aren't too many. And some of them I actually mention it, that like, this is tops of my list to get next time I'm out there.
Have you ever been down to, I'm trying to think, Waterfall Corner, Cascade Corner of Yellowstone National Park?
I have.
I know you've got some trails down here, but you've actually hiked down there?
Yeah.
Is that a fabulous place or what?
It is. It is. Yeah, that's, again, when I was just poring over the map and I see Cascade Corner, that sounds really nice. I'm gonna have to get over there. And it takes commitment to get to that part of the park.
It does.
And but it's nice, easy hiking, and waterfalls galore.
Yeah.
Some comparable to like lower falls of the Yellowstone.
Yeah, yeah. No, I was able to hike down there with a buddy, I don't know, a decade or so ago. And I'll never forget, we set out from Old Faithful, went down past Shoshone Lake, down towards the Beckler River. And we'd been hiking for about 4 or 5 hours. And we came across this ranger who had been doing some trail work and whatnot. And we got into a conversation, and we were just shooting a breeze and talking about this and talking about that. And then he goes, "Oh, by the way, do you have your permit?" Very smooth character. Fortunately, we did have our permit, and he let us pass on our way. But, I'm wondering, and like I said, it's been a decade or so since I've been down there, and that was always the overlooked part of Yellowstone, unless you went to the thoroughfare, which is another overlooked area of Yellowstone. But I'm just wondering if the trail use in the Cascade Corner area is getting more visitors.
I can't compare it to a decade ago, but it's pretty overlooked yet. So
Good. Don't tell anybody.
I think, I mean, considering the commitment it takes, and unpaved road, it's going to be the people that want to backpack, want to spend the night, and they're coming with permits. So you've got the quota system in place that we were talking about. That is a positive for visitor enjoyment, and it's regulated.
Yeah. So did you go in from Ashton, Idaho?
I went in. Yeah, I did. I did go in from Ashton, Idaho.
Yeah. Yeah. See, so you cut corners there because easy access, as opposed to hiking down from Old Faithful.
Yeah. I wasn't thinking about that yet.
Yeah. Going back to your travels across the national park system, what are some of the superlatives that people should know about? I mean, there's so many publications out there that talk about you got to do this, you got to do that when you visit national parks. Anything comes to mind that you haven't seen beaten to death in the mainstream media?
That's not beaten to death, man. Like, I would say, like, Death Valley for sure is one of the ones that is not beaten to death, and it's filled with superlatives, right? Like the lowest point in the Americas, and then Telescope Peak gets you a pretty good view of the highest point in the lower 48, and North Cascades is definitely one that's filled with superlatives that isn't beaten to death, and kind of intentionally.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, they're even, like, just Mount Rainier, like, it's visited very heavily, but I wouldn't say it's beaten to death by the media. And just like seeing that in the periphery of the Pacific Northwest, wherever you go, it's very, like, it is the definition of a superlative, that mountain sticking out in the middle of between Seattle and well, you can see it from all over the place, from Hood and from Mount Hood and Adams and Mount St. Helens.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out some East Coast superlatives would be nice to get into. Acadia is always the park that stands out in my mind, but that's nothing that's unknown to people.
Kind of overrun.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's funny. Shenandoah is well known, and yet I don't see a lot of stories about Shenandoah in the media.
Yeah, all of Appalachia isn't quite as dramatic as the Rockies in the West. The West has so much contrast. The Appalachian Trail gets a lot of media.
Yeah.
But yeah, Shenandoah definitely does not. But again, not short on tourists for going there to drive Skyline Drive, and Old Rig is a good example of quota systems being required to
Yeah.
hike the one trail that's overpopulated compared to the rest of them.
Something on everybody's bucket list. And yeah, you look around the national park system and the Grand Canyon. Most people go to the South Rim, and the North Rim gets overlooked. It's a gorgeous part of the park. It's 1,000 feet higher than the South Rim, so it's cooler. It's got those great ponderosa pine forests. Everybody goes to the Yosemite Valley, and yet if you drive the Tioga Pass Road and park and head off into the backcountry up there, you'll find some phenomenal areas. Same thing with Mount Rainier. Everybody wants to go to Paradise, and who doesn't want to go to Paradise? But Hanapakash is fascinating. I think the Sunrise area of Mount Rainier gets a lot of traffic just because the main road goes through there. But I think if you poke around, years ago, before they closed it, my wife and I were able to drive into the Carbon River entrance, which was certainly less visited than the Nisqually entrance, and we spent some day hikes going up to glaciers there without any crowds around us. So it can be done, and we probably shouldn't talk too much about it because it will be done, and it'll lose that uniqueness.
Yep. There are definitely places. That's why you need a map, and then you can look over that map and be like, well, there's no flags over here, and this is an unpaved road. Maybe this is a place I should check out and take a chance on something.
But it just doesn't translate on a phone, an iPhone. I mean, everybody's looking at their phones these days. I mean, how many people buy books? I mean, is that a boomer thing?
Yeah, I would be very interested in the demographics of it. Probably is a boomer thing, and maybe my generation too. Yet I know a lot of people my age that still like travel guidebooks and physical books.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what the demographics are on that. I like to think people are still buying books, and I've seen some numbers that, at least over the pandemic, where the book sales were very, very good because people were inside and reading. But yeah, overall, I don't know how things are shaking out with the future generations.
Yeah, well, once upon a time we thought vinyl was dead, and they have certainly come back strong.
Yep, cyclical.
Yeah. We're talking today with Mike Oswald, a prolific writer of national park guidebooks and maps, and we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
Listener and reader support make National Parks Traveler possible every day of the year. If you enjoy the Traveler's content, please consider a donation via nationalparkstraveler.org. Do you work or volunteer for the National Park Service? Are you retired from the Department of the Interior? Learn how you could earn $250 by joining Interior Federal Credit Union and opening up a new credit card. Visit their website for membership details and how to join. Federally insured by NCUA. The Blue Ridge Parkway Foundation is the primary nonprofit fundraising partner for the Blue Ridge Parkway. It is made up of people who have a deep love for this majestic road and want to ensure that its natural beauty and the experiences it offers endure for generations to come. You can show your appreciation at brpfoundation.org. The Everglades Foundation, the only organization whose sole mission is to restore and protect America's Everglades. Learn more at evergladesfoundation.org.
So, Mike, you've got your main National Park guidebook in 3 editions now, 2 of which I have. You have your National Park Atlas, which is phenomenal, and I can't believe that the Traveler editor didn't think about that eons ago. Your Day Hiker's Guide to the National Parks. Favorite hike in the National Park system? Do you have one?
Oh man, it's probably like parents trying to pick their favorite kids.
Yeah.
I think it changes a lot, but I mean, probably for recency bias, just thinking about Mount Rainier's the Skyline Trail up at Paradise is pretty, a whole lot of smiles happen on that trail.
Yeah. Did you, were you able to get over to Hawaii Volcanoes National Park?
Yeah, I was there at a really good time too, and there's Lava Lake at Halemaumu, and there was lava flowing into the ocean at the same time. So that was pretty neat. And
did you hike the Kilauea Iki Trail?
Yep.
That's a
the bathtub ring.
Yeah, that's a very interesting hike, and we visited in November of 21 with my youngest son and his wife, and we did a dumb thing. We hiked that trail in the middle of the day.
Yeah, it makes you think about blacktop, right? How much that rock can absorb
It's
absorb
amazing.
heat while you're out there.
It's amazing, but it's such a gorgeous hike. I mean, you start out going through the temperate rainforest, and then you get down onto the base of the crater, and like you said, that blacktop. And you look around, and there's actually quite a lot of life out there, at least vegetation.
It's bizarre though, right? Like where you basically go from jungle, like you're saying, and then it's immediately desert or like whatever you want to call that, volcanic wasteland or something. Like there's probably a different phrase for calling it, but it does. You go from lush, life-filled jungle to just this weird and sulfur smelling volcanic ecosystem.
Really brutal, but really fascinating, especially when you start to get into the history of how Kilauea Iki erupted, and I forget how high it was throwing molten rock into the sky, quite high, quite high. I noticed that it's day hikes and not just the hiker's guide. Is that going to be the companion coming out down the road for backpackers?
Yeah, I am thinking about doing that. The backpacker's guide to the national parks, the kayaker's guide to the national parks. We'll see. Maybe AI will put me out of business by then.
Yeah.
Fueled by my information. But that is what I'm thinking. If I keep doing national park stuff, is have specific things for specific people, and then that also keeps me more engaged in it to do different things while I'm out there, and I can kind of keep updating the big book, the comprehensive book along the way.
Yeah, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you find the time, because I have done guidebooks in my career, and they can be extremely tedious and time consuming, and especially when you're putting lodging facilities and restaurants, and you have to check the hours, and every year you got to come back and check to make sure they're still in business, and your eyes start to haze over.
Yeah, it's dedication, that's for sure. I know the first edition, when I looked back, I took one day off over the course of almost 2 years to go to the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago with a friend. And then I felt so guilty when I got back home. I'm like, I need to sit down on the computer for a little while. But I was doing like 14 to 16-hour days every single day, sitting at the computer, just trying to make a good book. And yeah, like you said, it is kind of eye-opening. Like you mentioned about the outfitters and the hotels and the restaurants, and seeing which ones make it last. And you can really pick out who's the ones that have a good thing going and have good word of mouth.
Yeah,
because they last.
Yeah. Your other most recent book is basically a journal that park visitors can take with them, and you do provide a small sampling of what you might want to do. Hot Springs National Park, stroll the Grand Promenade, or go up to Hot Springs Mountain Tower, or tour to Fordyce Bathhouse. But mainly it's just a journal where people can put their own notes in about their experience in this park or that park.
Yep, this is I had the gears turning on how to do things. Much to my accountant's dismay, I give away a lot of books. And now, so the third edition when that came out, that had a 70% price increase on printing. And I'm like, well, I can't really be handing out a whole ton of books for this. This is going to be straight to bankruptcy. But so yeah, something a little less expensive, and something that still will be park specific and should make things more fun for people. I know my family was all excited about it, and they're a bunch of non-journalers where I've got a couple bookshelves full of journals, and I'm just like lukewarm excited about it. There are funny, the illustrations personally that carry that book. Some of them are pretty funny. Some of them are like not the greatest, but
did you do them?
No, I didn't. I do draw some prairie dogs, and I originally had illustration by me in the intro to it, but they were too uneven that I didn't feel like some of them were okay and some of them were just straight up bad. And in my general opinion on doing things, I think you either need to be good or bad. And most of them were just in the middle of okay. And I'm like, yeah, we better delete these and just focus on the checklists and give people room to make it their own.
Yeah. Well, here's a good one on Glacier Bay National Park, and it's a little illustration of a cow and a calf, and the cow is saying, "Sorry, Buster, I thought there would be calves for you to play with."
Yeah, some of mine go less for educational and more for the humor.
Yeah, but there are calves. I mean, whale calves.
Yeah, they are.
So,
yeah, you fact checked me. False. There are calves at Glacier Bay.
yeah, it's part of my one of the bad things about being a journalist. You're always looking for your own mistakes. But one thing I like about this, Mike, is in the Backpackers, my National Parks Journal, is there is plenty of space for notes. I mean, not only do you give ample pages for each park for journals, but in the back, I don't know how many blank pages there are. And again, your accountant probably hates that. But, I've seen so many guidebooks to the national parks over the years. And the one thing I hate, and I'm sorry, this applies to your Day Hiker's Guide and to your national parks, the big book.
I like criticism.
There are no blank pages for people to make their own notes about, I want to go back and see this, or I want to go do that.
I should show you my like, I just write all over the place. I always, whenever I'm updating and going park to park, I don't think I have it near me though, but there's just red ink, green ink, blue ink all over the place. But you are right. It would be, I think people would appreciate it, especially for stamps. Like, people like collecting the stamps.
Exactly.
And doing those in there.
Yeah. But you should leave space for that.
The printer was just like you, where you're bringing in my accountant into it. They're like, why are all these blank pages in here? And like, you could save a whole signature out of this thing. But I'm like, well, they're gonna add new parks eventually, and people like writing John stuff down. So you gotta have a little extra space. So there's space for 4 future parks or ample notes.
There you go. Well, Mike, it's been great catching up and talking about your projects so far. You're taking a break right now. How long is the break, and then where are you going to afterwards?
So I've got I'm finishing up the ebook for that Day Hiker's Guide. That thing releases in October, and then it's going to be a East Coast book sales tour. So I'm going to be reaching out to, I'm going to go to like small town America, the sort of unserviced part of the country, and do libraries and little mom and pop bookshops, talk parks, sell some books, and make them more crowded, I guess, Kurt.
More crowded. Well, you don't have to do that. You just have to talk about the places that are uncrowded and funnel some of the people off to there. I went to Fort Larned National Historic Site in far west Kansas last year, and I had it to myself. It was really kind of interesting and disappointing a little bit, although as I was getting ready to leave, a father and his son came and decided to check it out. But there are an incredible number of overlooked gems out there that people need to turn their eyes to, in addition to the Yellowstones and Yosemites of the world. As the Scottsbluff National Monument Superintendent told me, we're not a final destination, but we are a destination along the way.
Yeah, that's a good saying. I went up to Scottsbluff, and it was a situation like you had, where an older couple showed up at the viewpoint while I was there. I'm like, oh man, that's a cool place. It's an interesting history. But hey, back to mentioning the National Parks Traveler discount code, 25% off with NPT25 at stoneroadpress.com. Go to the shop, and we'll do some donating. 100% of the profit will go to the Traveler. And you can buy the Day Hiker's Guide and the journal, my National Parks Journal, now, and I'll get them out to you. It doesn't have to wait till October 3rd. And
what about the National Park Map Atlas?
They're all in there. Yep, all of them. Right. And there's a National Parks enthusiast package if you want to get all of them for a discount. So then add the 25% off of there, and you get a pretty decent deal. Do better than Amazon.
Well, as I like to say, buy it and buy it often.
Yeah. Or donate often.
There you go. We are a nonprofit. Well, Mike, thanks so much. Let's catch up down the road once you start diving into some of your other projects, and see what else we can learn about the national parks.
Sounds good, Kurt. Thanks a lot for having me on.
That's our show for this week. We hope you enjoyed it. If you're looking for park guides, check out Mike's books at stoneroadpress.com. If they sound appealing, be sure to add the discount code NPT25 for a 25% discount on your purchase, and to help build a donation Mike will send to the Traveler. For the Traveler, this is Kurt Repenchek. See you in the parks.
The composers and musicians at Orange Tree Productions have created a unique collection known as the National Park Series that has grown to include more than 30 CD titles. Composed against the backdrop of a park's sounds of nature, these musical scores will connect you with these beautiful places and take you there, at least in your mind. This collection is the #1 selling National Park audio series in the world and provides the background music for National Parks Travelers podcasts. Visit them at orangetreeproductions.com. Editing and production work for the National Parks Traveler podcast is done by Splitbeard Productions. You can learn more about us at splitbeardproductions.com. National Parks Traveler is a 501c3 nonprofit media organization that provides daily editorial coverage of national parks and protected areas. Traveler's coverage is made possible by reader and listener donations. Visit us at nationalparkstraveler.org.